Association of Nonprofit Organizations. Thank you so much for joining us today for another great program, a great educational program. As Christian said, keep yourself muted if you can, put things in the chat, and I think we'll have time for question and answer. I am really delighted this morning to introduce Ned Fasullo. Ned is a very accomplished guy, 27-year veteran of consulting, design, and support in most areas of business technology. Ned is up on all the latest stuff, and that's what we want to hear about today. He's worked with small businesses, businesses of all sizes. He's been an advisor, a consultant. He's been in the retail, healthcare, legal, every kind of sector you can imagine. And Ned is a very successful guide, consultant, and public speaker. On top of that, if you have never seen Ned and his big band, he is a very accomplished musician. I know he's happy to be getting back into the musical world now that we're coming out of our year plus of no live music. Ned is also an accomplished author. Most recently, he's published The Small Book of Big Marketing. He serves currently as the mid-market division manager for Transformix and likes to play tennis, has a great wife and kids, and just basically is an all-around busy, good guy. And we're thrilled to have him giving us his time and expertise this morning. So thank you, Ned, for joining us. Take it away.
Okay. Let me share my screen here real fast. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thanks for having us. For all the nonprofit people out there on the call, appreciate the time. I know everybody's really busy. Really enjoy doing these kind of talks. I've been a real personal steward of working with nonprofits for many years. With Transformix going all the way back to 1999 through Katrina, and then having my own small company for a very short time. During that point, I had probably between 30 and 40 nonprofits as customers. And way back then, I also did trainings with LANO. So love the organization, love everything that they're about. Their new direction is really exciting. And so we're all glad to be here. Some of my team members are on the call. They're muted. They're just on for the learning experience today. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. So today's talk, the 20-minute technology plan, this is something we used to do many, many years ago in the LANO trainings back in the early 2000s and forward. It's changed quite a bit since then because obviously technology has changed. But the gist of this today is a simple solution for creating a technology plan that actually works for a nonprofit. So one of the things I always like to preach to our nonprofit customers whenever they come to Transformix, or if I just know people in the nonprofit world, is that the nomenclature of nonprofit is just the tax filing status. It is not necessarily something that should be hung around your neck as an anchor. You operate as any other business does, and you just do it a little differently when it comes to how you can generate revenue per se, or raise funds, or accomplish your mission. So the thing that is the same for you as it is for any other company of any other size is that, especially today, 100% of what you do is driven by technology. I would dare to think that there are any nonprofits that don't rely on technology to accomplish their mission at this point. I'm pretty sure that's 100% across the board how it works. So in this day and age, the one place to start is looking at how we categorize technology inside of the business. And this goes for any type of business out there. This is how we approach this issue. You really have to take, in today's world, and break your technology as far as function, infrastructure, organization, and execution of into three functional buckets, we call it. Everything predominantly at this point in your life is driven by the cloud. And what is the cloud? The cloud is not some mysterious nebulous void where things just exist. The joke in our industry is the cloud is just someone else's computer. So the clouds are collections of data and applications that people can access, and they are generally stored in very high level data centers. You think of the three main cloud providers as Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. So just at a very high level, for anyone who's not up to speed on that kind of stuff, that's where we start. Then you have what we call the middle range of data centers, which are owned by people like Transformix, Venue, people like that in Louisiana especially. And we can build out our own clouds for customers, which is just a virtualization of physical equipment, and we can connect to the larger three clouds. So hope that wasn't too confusing, but that's kind of how we try to explain to the layperson what the cloud is really all about. It's just a way to deliver a service virtually. So when you look at the cloud and data center bucket, I know a lot of nonprofits are in Google. I don't mean to omit Google or Gmail, but the world really still is dominated by Microsoft. And to be honest, the Microsoft 365 platform is going to be preferred from most vendors that you would deal with, almost solely based on its ease of use. It integrates into everything you already do, and from a security perspective. And we'll touch on that in a second. Collaboration services, in our definition, that is your phones, your video conferencing, which now everybody is doing. There's not a single client that is not involved somehow in video conferencing or video calling. We have clients that are actually getting rid of the phones on their desks and going strictly to their mobile phones or their computers as their primary phone. So you can lump all that together. Active versus archive of data backup, business applications, and connectivity, which is the most important thing. Another joke in our industry is that the two things you will spend the most money on in technology is connectivity or internet connectivity and toner cartridges. There is no greater expense in our world for clients than those two things. And it is a joke, but it is actually fairly accurate for most companies. But connectivity takes on many different forms, with a lot of nonprofits who may be starting up right now, or some that have been in existence for 10 or 15 years. The pandemic showed everybody that working remotely or working from home or just working from a coffee shop was completely feasible. So connectivity has taken on a new role in all of this, in how you connect, and that is no longer just relying on AT&T and Cox and Charter and Spectrum and all the other companies to bring service to your building, but how are you connecting wirelessly, LTE, 5G, things like that. The next bucket, network and end user hardware. You need to take this piece as being all of the physical equipment when and where it is necessary. So we want to see small business and even medium-sized business customers have the least amount of equipment in their physical offices as possible to operate. And now, like no other time, has that been possible through the use of cloud computing. So it's a really unique time in that organizations do not have to invest as heavily in physical equipment and write grants to try to buy things like they used to. There are plenty of opportunities in this area for turning a capital expenditure into a operating expenditure and renting equipment, things of that nature. But in this world, you're talking about any devices that your employees would use. That would be phones, tablets, laptops, computers, any servers that may or may not be necessary, switching, which is the thing that's in your nebulous tech closet at your office that has all the blue cable coming out of it. That's a network switch. A firewall, which is pretty imperative these days based on cybersecurity and all of the attempted ransom and breach instances that have happened. And then access points are the little things on the ceiling which broadcast Wi-Fi, which give you service. And if there are any questions while I'm talking, I'm happy to take questions during the presentation. So somebody just let me know, because I can't see the cameras when I'm presenting. Cybersecurity. This is the piece that needs to layer over the previous two buckets. And that's going to basically be broken into user credentials, how people get on a network for your business, how they log onto your applications, things like that, as individuals. The network access, which is where their credentials are told this is what they can and cannot do. Any of your email services, because if some of you may know this, but the number one way that cyber criminals ransomware a business is through an employee clicking on an email that they think is real and it is actually a fake email, and they can launch an attack on the computer you're on and back into your network and your data backups. So email services are critical to be secured. End user devices that are owned by the organization versus bring your own devices, which are owned by the employee, which that has been around for a very long time. I don't know any companies at this point that buy cell phones or mobile devices for their employees to use. Pretty much we rely on whatever phone an employee is walking in with, but we need to know how to secure the organization's data and communications on that device. Any questions about this in general? Nope. All right, we'll move on. So let's get into what the plan, how do you create the plan? So I've always looked at this as a 10-step process, 10 to 15 steps. A lot of organizations are out there that do this type of thing for nonprofits. And I think universally it's kind of been whittled down to the 10-step process. And I think it's a good match. And I break it into two parts, internal and external. So we'll start with part one. And that the number one thing you do is you establish your technology planning team. If you're a small nonprofit with 2 or 3 people, that's your team. If you're a larger nonprofit with 50, 60 employees, for whatever reason that may be, you want to get your key stakeholders inside your organization on board with what you're doing. Second to that, you want to go into your executive team and your board of directors, and then your outside consultants if you have any for your organization. You want to work with those people because you need buy-in across the board, ultimately at the end of the day. The next thing you want to do is assess your nonprofit's current technology. You want to look at where you are today. You want to look at where you're trying to get to. If you're changing the way your organization is going to function or deliver its mission, you want to just kind of whiteboard all of those parameters to understand, well, what do we really need in terms of technology to accomplish our mission? The next thing is you're going to prioritize, determine your priorities for your plan. So from the first 2 steps, you can begin to make a to-do list in order. Okay, well, this is where we need to be. This is our path to get where we want to go. The next thing is needs. That's from the prioritization list. What am I buying? What do I need to equip myself? If our nonprofit is going to be essentially virtual with no physical office, then basically I need my people to have laptops. They need to have LTE to connect to the internet anywhere they are. They're going to have a mobile phone. Or the flip side is I'm in a nonprofit that has a large building already. We're 50 employees. We have desks. We have computers. We have a technology closet. What do we need to be doing in that scenario, and then everything in between? So all of that, those first 4 steps get you to step 5, which helps you outline a budget. And I use the word outline very carefully. So it allows you to put together an initial budget of what it's going to take to get you started, and then to look down the road at a 12-month, 24, 36, based on your organization. What are the things you're going to have to account for from an expense standpoint? Any questions on there before I move on? Okay. Then the next piece is the external. And this is the part where your stakeholders come together as a team and may or may not work with an outside consultant or company like a Transformix or somebody else. And you want to research vendors based on what your mission is, how you need to accomplish it, the number of employees, where you need to work, how you need to work, is where you're going to determine, am I using the right CRM today? Am I using the right donor platform? Am I using the right invoicing and accounting platform? And you want to really research the vendors that are available, and not just the ones that promote themselves as we're a solution for nonprofits. They just need to be a solution for the thing that you need to accomplish. Again, there are plenty that only work with nonprofits, and that's totally fine. But QuickBooks doesn't care if you're a nonprofit or a for-profit. Their solution might be the best fit for you, or Sage or Peachtree or something of that nature. So just be open-minded when you're looking. Now, there's certain parts of what you do, such as donor management and things, where you do want to lean on vendors who come from that world, and that's fine. but you want to make sure you're really assessing that, and your whole planning team is in on this. Once you've done that and you've kind of set out, these are the people that I want to look at, you need to establish a timeline for whatever it is that you've decided you want to accomplish, and you need to try to hit those dates if at all possible. Of course, you're doing this while you're running your nonprofit, so of course there are challenges, but assigning due dates to your stakeholders on your technology team and going for those timelines, and even holding your vendors accountable, or your technology vendor, as part of that process, and make it a project. Hold everybody accountable, and try to hit your timelines. The next thing you're going to do once, as you're kind of moving through that and coming to the end of what you're implementing, is making sure that everybody with a stake in this, whether they're the employees or the board or even your vendors, that they're trained on what to do to support these. With Transformix, when we manage a nonprofit or a for-profits business and they have third-party business applications, we call them, like a QuickBooks, like AutoCAD, or like a donor management system, we technically are responsible for helping them support that, even though they don't own it, we don't own it. But when they have a problem with it, they need to come to whoever their provider is, or directly to that vendor, and say, we have a problem, we need support, we need training, whatever it may be. And that's a very important step, so that as the organization, you may have a tech support company, but you don't need to be the tech support for your third-party platforms. You need to have somebody who can take those things on and make sure that whatever support or fixes are needed, you're getting those in a timely fashion. The second piece of training is your employees. They all need to know how everything works. The flip side to the operational training is security training. You need to be able to train your employees on all the different facets of cybersecurity, which that's a whole different talk for a different day, but that's what we call social engineering. You need to be able to quarterly round up your board and your employees, and help to educate them on what to do and not to do using your equipment or inside of your applications, and what to look for potential cyber criminal activity, things of that nature. So that training has become a two-pronged deal, with the advent of what we call real cybercrime, affecting everyone. And just for everyone's edification, from the beginning of COVID last year to today, worldwide, every 11 seconds, there's an attempted breach or attempted ransom of a network somewhere on the earth. That is affecting everyone from a small 2-person operation up to Target and JCPenney. So don't ever take the stance that my organization is unknown or too small to be a target, because it is absolutely a target. We know this at Transformix from a lot of experience in helping customers recover. Part 9 of the plan for the external side is you want to draft your technology plan. I've got a template that I can share with Jill and Christian, and they can pass this out to all the attendees for you to basically have something to fill in to start the process of drafting. This does not have to be a complicated document. It doesn't have to be 500 pages long, but it does need to take the 3 functional areas of the organization that we went over earlier. It has to address who the stakeholders are, what they're responsible for. You want to put it in a binder. You want to have any notes and sections in your binder on your vendors, your third-party applications, all of that stuff. We call that, at the end of the day, when you execute on it, your run book. That is what keeps your organization running. So if there was a hurricane and you had to evacuate your building with all of your people, and you grabbed your computers and your run book, you should be able to functionally operate from anywhere if you're set up to get remote access. So you really want to get that all done. You want your board to ratify it in writing. You want to update this document quarterly, if not twice a year, to annually. And you want to make sure that the board has bought into this and accepted that this is, the deal. A lot of experience with organizations with board members that can be very positive and very negative. I'm sure everybody here has had that experience, but it's buy-in across the whole organization that gets you success. And then you want to put it into action. If there's things you do every day, week, month, quarter, or year that keep this thing rolling, you want to make sure that's a part of your operational procedures to get things going. Now, if you work with a technology vendor, what you should end up with after it's, or at some during and even after it's moved forward and you've got your plan in place, all the parts and pieces are there, it would look something like this. We call this your technology blueprint. So just like you're designing a building, and I'm showing you something from a commercial organization, I did redact their name and everything. This is just one example. This is not how everybody looks, but as a vendor, this is something that we provide to a customer from the day that we take them on, and we can update this document as things change. So you would have, these would be your physical offices. They're all connected to the cloud. Here you can see that there's an offshoot here to Microsoft Azure. In some people's world, that may say Google Cloud. It may say Amazon. In some people's organizations, these servers may not exist because everything they may be doing may be delivered like through a Blackbaud or another donor management system in CRM, and they don't need physical servers. So this is kind of this is an everything fully loaded to the gills, really can't buy anything else type of environment. You do marry in things like, where does your internet service come from? What other third-party things are out there? What security is going to be in place? Things like that. So this also helps you as an organization provide to your board that you have a legitimate plan of attack. You do know where everything is. You know how to get to it. You know who to call for help, things of that nature. And all of this type of thing is delivered. And a lot of technology companies will provide this. I won't say this is just a Transformix thing. There are plenty that do versions of this in some way. That's really it. I try to keep these short and sweet just because I know we should have questions, but just in summary, the biggest thing is security is not negotiable. Anything you are doing in the world of technology must be secured. And a couple of just key takeaways: stakeholder buy-in is critical to success. Utilize cloud services when and where possible. When it comes to equipment, I know that there's still a lot of procedures and things out there for writing grants and buying equipment, but use a technology partner to help you find refurbished and recertified computers. Computers don't last 5 years anymore, to be quite honest. They're really, on a 2 to 3 year life cycle. The operating systems may last a little longer, but the physical equipment, depending on what you do in your mission, can get banged around or just get old or get slow. The more that you consume cloud services, the faster equipment you're going to need. We do try to push small businesses to look at refurb and recertified laptops and computers because they come with a warranty. They're usually extremely inexpensive, sometimes as low as $250 to $350 per machine. And you'll get about 2-3 years out of it, and run it till the wheels fall off, as we say, and then just, refresh from there. Sometimes you can even do operating expenditure to rent the equipment from a provider, and then you don't have a capital outlay that's needed. You do have to figure out how to pay for that in your monthly budget, but for organizations that struggle with grant writing or raising large amounts of money to do these things, then there are options out there across the board, whether it's software-based or hardware-based. Always invest in a comprehensive security-based ecosystem company-wide. Align everything from security from the endpoint and the end user all the way back into, we call it the core, and put an umbrella over all of that as best as you can. And then just keep your infrastructure refresh going as needed. And, sometimes board members are not people who come from the technology world in their own organizations. They may own a company, they may work at a large company in an executive capacity, but they may never have been involved in planning technology or procuring it. So keep that in mind when you're recruiting board members. Look for people who can be what you need, but are going to have some knowledge of these areas so that when you are putting these things together, you're not fighting your board over what you need to operate. Real quick, just some of our nonprofit references that some of you may recognize. This is just a handful. There's a lot more, but these are some of our, I guess, key logos that represent many different facets of the types of organizations they are, from industrial to economic development to direct impact, we call it, helping patients, to the healthcare side of things. As an organization, just to kind of follow up, in the for-profit world, these are some of our key references. I'm going to share this prezzo. I'm not going to bore you with too much of this right now. Our leadership team, and that is the end of the presentation. Any questions we want to address?
I do. I'm going to jump in real quickly, Ned. I mean, I have endless questions because I have a hard time with all of this, but what, am I freezing up?
Yes. Yeah. There.
Okay. I'm freezing up.
Oh, no, you're not freezing up on our end.
Oh, okay. I am on my end. Strange. Okay. In all of these platforms, you're talking about that on your final slide, pulling everything under an umbrella. Kind of go into a little more detail in that of what you mean, and in the quick, I guess.
Well, so I'll go back to this slide. I mean, essentially, it's hard to represent it one-dimensionally, unfortunately, but basically what you have is that the security overlay is what we're talking about by the umbrella, right? So the security overlay is basically made up of what we call seatbelt controls. You want to protect your end user credentials. You want to protect email services against phishing, and I don't know if everybody knows what phishing is, but the way that ransomware criminals get in is through a phishing email. And then you want to protect your endpoints. So you've got credentials, endpoints, and email. Those are the three main, entry and exit ways for a cyber criminal to access your equipment or your network or your users and take over. They do not care about your data. Just understand from a security perspective, they just want to lock up your computer or your network and make you pay to get it back. That's all it is. They're not trying to steal your donor information or replicate credit card data anymore. They don't care about that because they know that if you're out of business, you'll pay to get back in business. So using those three seatbelt controls, that becomes the foundation of that umbrella. Outside of that, there are any number of things and services that apply very specifically to certain types of operations. So you have to take each one of those individually, and if it applies to you, or if you're a nonprofit that is under some type of compliance issue, like a HIPAA or a FINRA or something like that, we layer a few more things in that umbrella to protect you from that angle. After that, everything is pretty much just software and hardware. Does that answer the question?
Yes. I mean, I don't understand enough of it, but I try to understand. One more question. You're talking about, what I've struggled with right now, and I don't know if there's any solution for this, is that, some people are sharing things with on a Google Drive. Some people are using a Dropbox. Somebody else is using a different, is there one that you think is better than others? I mean, I know you talked about everything goes to Microsoft 365, but in these kind of sharing, is there something?
Yeah, it's definitely Microsoft 365, unfortunately. Google and Dropbox are considered more consumer class, even though they do say that they're secure and they take these steps. To be quite honest, they're really not. I mean, they're just not set up that way. We do kind of cringe, even in our school districts that we manage, when they're on the Google platform. It's very difficult to secure in any meaningful way, where Microsoft is doing it from the standpoint of they're going to secure everything in their platforms on their side. So any steps you take on your side are just extra. And you have a lot more sharing control and version control of things. And if something were to get to you on your machine, it is rare, if impossible, for it to infiltrate any of your stuff that would be in the Microsoft side of things. Their systems are just so highly advanced for that even if you got ransomware, you could be pretty safe to assume that anything you had in OneDrive or SharePoint was completely fine. It was really not going to be a problem to recover. Using those is a great option too, because from a cost perspective, Microsoft gives away so much storage for that purpose when you use just their email services, that as an organization who, you know, maybe doesn't want to spend a lot of money on things like that, you're going to get so much of that free that it's a really kind of a cherry on top deal. It's hard to beat. And our security teams here will tell you any day of the week that Microsoft has their game together on security and on file and information sharing within an organization, and even for people outside of your organization. So you could set up a folder for your food vendor, if you're Baton Rouge Food Bank or a trucking company, and you can share documents in that folder, but you can set that folder to expire. You can set the documents to be read-only, where they can't be printed, they can't be downloaded. There's just so many options there, and everything's so tightly integrated with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, which is where a lot of us live. Google tries to do it, but Google wants to be so open and liberal and free for everybody to use, and that's great, and it works for a lot of things. It is not the best way to go from a business perspective. If it is the thing that the organization wants to do, we will, as a company, do our best to support and secure it, but we just can't make the guarantees that we can with Microsoft.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions, Christian?
Sorry, I was muted. I don't see any coming in. Did anyone else want to unmute and just, we have a smaller group today.
I probably just did so well that they're completely educated.
I think that you did awesome,
Everybody
and you provided so much information that we're all.
Or they're all asleep. It could be either one. We're not sure.
Probably
I'll
need
certainly share.
processing.
I'll share the PowerPoint with you guys in a few minutes, and the document which I created last night, which I'll just, let me see if I can pull it up and just show you guys real quick. Where did I save it? You know what? I think I put it in my OneDrive folder. There it is right there. Let's see if it pulls up, see if you guys can see this. But this is essentially the presentation from today. So I'm going to share this. Oh, I'm sorry, this is disaster recovery. I'm pulling up the wrong stuff. Hold on one second, please.
Ned, next presentation for another day. That looks like
Yes, disaster recovery, or, you know, cybersecurity. Our cybersecurity talk is actually very, very popular because it is something that absolutely affects every single person, business, you name it, it's going to affect them. So cannot believe I cannot find this document when I just closed it last night, but I will get you guys a copy of this document. Oh, there it is. There's the Word doc. But yeah, cybersecurity, ransomware in particular, how to train your employees, what type of services are available. So this is kind of the expanded version of the presentation today. If y'all can see this Word doc that I've got pulled up, and it goes into great detail of each of the sections of the 10 steps. So I am going to share that with you guys, and y'all can disseminate however you want. Eventually we can load it in your website and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we will. We'll put it on the website. That'd be great. And appreciate it. Ned, thank you. You know, this is more and more important to our businesses. I know we all know we've got to keep up on this technology. And like I said, I always say, I just want it all to work. I don't really want to know how it works, but you know, more and more, I guess I need to understand more. Okay, we got a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. We are currently using Dropbox as a server, and it's worked well. Are the companies using Microsoft? Is it Azure? Using the
Azure.
entire? Okay. Using the entire Microsoft family of services to maximize their technology needs?
That answer is yes. Generally, so Microsoft 365 lives in Microsoft Azure. So Azure is just Microsoft's name for their data centers and their cloud kind of, you know, services. So 365 is a part of that, and with 365 you get 1 terabyte of OneDrive for each email user. You get a SharePoint portal with 2 terabytes of sharing, which consider your OneDrive your old My Documents folder on your computer. So when you have Windows 10, your My Documents actually becomes your OneDrive folder. You may not even realize that, but you're actually saving to your OneDrive folder every time you do something on your local computer, so you don't ever lose it. The SharePoint is the tool to use where you can have a section in your SharePoint for board of directors, one for finance, one for donor management, and you can sequester and share information and files inside and outside the organization as you need to. But yes, to answer the question, if they're in OneDrive or SharePoint, they are absolutely consuming all of the Microsoft, business applications as part of that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Are there any more
everybody.
questions?
I was going to say, if we don't have any more questions, thank you all for joining us. Ned, cannot thank you enough. And I know that when we talked originally, you've got a number of presentations all about different technological issues. So we will definitely tap into you and your expertise again. Everyone else, in 2 weeks, June 16th, our next virtual presentation is going to be Leadership with Meredith Eicher. So I hope you can join us. Go on over to the website and register if you can. And we'll also take these documents from Ned, make sure you get them. And we'll also be housing this on the website, as Ned said. He's helping us with some website issues. So we're just really grateful to Ned for his support of LANO and his time this morning. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Appreciate it. Thank you.